Okay, let's see. Good morning, family. Good morning. Buenos días, familia. ¿Cómo está la familia? How is the family? ¿Todo bien? Antelope Valley. Good morning, Antelope people. How you doing? What are Antelope people? What is the nature of an Antelope people? That's what we have to figure out here today. I'll tell you my sense of Antelope people, and you can tell me yours. But let's start with gratitude this morning, yeah? This was a hard lesson for me to learn as a young person. Growing up the way I did, the way that I interpreted my life was not very positive, not very productive, not very helpful, not to me or anybody. See, I translated my pain into reason for sorrow. And so it took me a long time to understand the beautiful gift and power of gratitude. It took me a long time, but now I've got it, so I'm going to give it. From the bottom of my heart, the breath of my soul, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. What an incredible lifelong honor and gift it is for me to be called and invited and warmly welcomed to be a part of this moment with you, January 24th, 2018. We all made it here, and that's not to be taken for granted. Yes, we all made it here. Antelope people, we made it here. We didn't have to. The sun rose this morning. A supermoon is coming. The sky is above our head. We have an atmosphere. We can breathe. The last several weeks in my community, we've experienced the largest wildfire in the history of California, followed by torrential rain and flooding and mudslides, and people have perished. Homes have been lost, and sometimes we think of a home in a material sense, and we think, what a terrible thing for people to lose their home, but they'll be all right, it's just a home. But for many people, a house is so much more than a physical structure. It is that place in which they have found their security, their safety, their sense that I'm going to be all right. Me and mine, we're going to be all right. At least today, at least tonight, at least tomorrow, at least next week, we're going to be okay. When a human being can take that exhale, that breath, that relaxation into the peace of knowing that it's going to be all right for just at least a moment in time, everything changes. We are at our best then. Our love comes out. Our beauty comes out. The smile comes out. The sun comes out when we feel like we're going to be all right. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the way that my community reacted to those hard times. I'm grateful for the love that was shown in those moments. I'm grateful that I made it through to be able to be here today with you. I was able to get up this morning and put on my clothes and get in a car, man. And I had money for gas. I gassed up yesterday, sister. I made sure. I didn't want to be dying on the side of the road in Antelope Valley. You know what I mean? Where's the speaker? There's, hundreds of people. Where's the speaker? We don't know. Where's Jaiya? End up on the side of the road somewhere, and a brother can't get a ride. You know what I'm saying? You can't just, let's be real. Can we be real today? Can we be real, family? We are a family, right? You didn't expect me to come here and lecture academically, did you? No. A brother can't just stick his thumb out. See, it's a different reality for me. So I made sure to get my gas last night. I said, I got to go meet my Antelope people, man. I'm not missing out on this because I was with you about a year ago, I believe. Something like that. It's all a blur. It was the most amazing energy. I almost flew home on my own power. I was so high because I had been so loved. And ever since that moment, I've been pestering people in the Antelope Valley. I've been saying, please bring me back. Won't you have me back? It's about the energy. It's about the spirit. It's about the way that we embrace each other. My man, thank you for your kindness, for your goodness, for your glory, for your smile. Thank you for being warm to me. Thank you. And I feel fraudulent, by the way. That picture was taken about 30 years ago. I feel like I need me a new headshot. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to deceive you. You thought you were hear from a 20-year-old, but no. That was me. Decades ago, I was on the island of Bermuda. That's why that water is behind my head. That's not photoshopped water. That's real ocean water. I was on the island of Bermuda and had been called over there to be a part of their healing work, the same that we're a part of, you and I, over here in this area. And it was really a gift for me. One of the things that I've been fortunate to come to understand, because I have been blessed to be so many places in the world, and I have seen everywhere that I have been, I have seen some phenomenal, outstanding, astounding, profound truths, common truths about our humanity. You see, certain things are the same everywhere you go. And so because of that, it's a little easier for me to shed the sin of my prejudice, of my presumption about human beings based upon physical appearance, based upon the way we roll into the room this morning, the way we dress, the way our hair is, the kink, the curl, the bounce, the fro, status fro, the locks, the straight hair, the features that indicate Europe and Asia and Africa and the indigenous world. I have been helped to put aside the prejudice and see the soul. Hey, are you with me? We can do church on a Wednesday, family. We can do church on a Wednesday. It's okay to feel things in this work. As a matter of fact, we have to. And that's what I'm here for. I've learned the hard way we got to feel some things in this work. Now, I was born in La Tierra del Encanto, Nuevo Mexico. I was born by the river. Rio Grande, in the land of enchantment, in the state called New Mexico. Now, wherever I've gone around this country, I've realized we're not so good at geography, y'all. We got to step up our geography in school. Because I tell people I'm from New Mexico, and they say, well, when did you move to this country? We got issues with our geography, folks. We got people coming from other countries that know New Mexico better than people that are from the United States. You with me? ¿Me comprendes? We got to step it up. We got to get to know each other. You know what I mean? I was born in La Ciudad, Albuquerque, by the Rio Grande River. I was born in Baton Memorial Hospital, and I was born from my mother, and like most people, I was connected to my mother by an umbilical cord. How many of you were born from your mother? Show of hands. I don't want to make any assumptions. We don't want to make any assumptions. You know what I mean? That's an important lesson. Culturally, don't make assumptions. Okay, we're good. We're on the same page. So you can follow me. You can relate to me. Now, when they cut the cord connecting me to my mother, they rushed me out of the room immediately. And I mentioned this purposefully. They rushed me out of the room immediately. I believe there was a strategy to it back in the day. You know, they're thinking, well, let's avoid any kind of, what do we call it these days? We call it attachment. We're learning as a family, you and I, brothers and sisters, we're learning about the sensitivity of the human soul, the need for connection, what relationship really does mean for us. It does mean so much. We're getting there. There is hope, and I bring a hopeful message. Child abuse as a concept is something that we're still learning about as well. It's been going on forever, and we've talked about it clinically forever, but we're beginning to, as our brother just evidenced for us, we're beginning to talk about these things differently now. We're starting to focus on the nurturing aspect of community and family. You know what I mean? We're starting to get back to our true self. Because we've been lost for a long time, at least in this society. We can say that, yeah? Love speaks the truth. Love is not necessarily polite. Love is a fire that's determined to set things right. And so it says what is. It's not propaganda. It's not marketing. It's not promotion. It's not public relations. It's not politics. Love is love, and love is the non-negotiable law of how you and I are to be well together. Now, before I get lost too much farther into my stream, I do want to say that after the message, I am here to be with you in love, in communion, right? So don't be running away from me. They put me on timeout behind the black curtains. You'll find me hidden back there. There's a table, and I'm going to stay here. I'll probably be the last person here. For me, that's ministry, but it's also selfishness. When you come and you shed your grace on me, you leave me with something more that I didn't have before, okay? So don't just run out of here. Let's take the opportunity to love up on each other. Can we do that? Let me ask you this question. Are we worthy of loving each other in this room today? Show of hands. Are we worthy of being kind to each other? And saying, I love you, Regina. I love you, Natalie. I have love for you because you're beautiful. Are we worthy of that? Can we do that? Can we practice that today? So when you see me back there, don't come at me like this. Hello, Jaiya. Don't do the distance. Don't do that. Come at me like this. Hey, brother. Come at me like that, okay? I'm saying this because I want us to know, maybe we've forgotten because we've grown up in these systems, you and I, professionally speaking. We've grown up in these systems that, let's be truthful in love. These systems were evolved, the systems that we know today, brothers, stay with me in love on this. These systems were originated by menfolk, okay? They were conceived by menfolk. See, back in the day, we all come from what I call grandparent cultures. And these are Latino cultures, and these are indigenous cultures, and African and Asian cultures. These are cultures from all over the world that you and I descend from. And if you go back far enough, European cultures, if you go back far enough in your grandparent culture, you come to a place where your community knew how to love itself. And the women were often in position of leadership. They were in position, and it wasn't this structured bureaucratic thing. It was organic. It was simply this thing, this understanding on the part of women and men that there are roles to be played. There is nurturing that is needed for our children. And there are some times where the father and the mother break down. The parents are not well. And back in our grandparent cultures, they knew how to react in these moments. They reacted organically. When a child was in need or in danger, guess what the community did in your ancestral culture and mine? They didn't sit down and position themselves professionally on rocks to hold a professional meeting, a staff meeting. They didn't cross their legs professionally. They didn't dress professionally. They didn't have titles and degrees. They didn't look at each other professionally from a distance and say, hello, how are you doing today? Let's start the meeting. They didn't say, let's start a 10-year longitudinal research study to figure out what's wrong with this child and this family. They didn't say, well, let's wait for the next funding cycle so that we can address the need of the child and the family. They didn't do those things because they understood that a child is born a song and a child must sing, and a family is born a symphony, and that family must be free to perform itself. And a community is not just the orchestra, it's the audience. It's the whole entire community of family, and that it needs to be empowered to be its true self and not have to be oppressed by a culture that is foreign to it and ways that are foreign to it. We're talking about our ancestors, family. We're talking about knowing how to take illness and brokenness and sickness and trauma and tragedy and turn it into wellness. That's alchemy. That's magic. That's medicine. And then with industrialization and what we call civilization, along came menfolk. And menfolk said, we're going to create systems in our image. And those systems will be cold and clinical and controlling. In those systems, you will not be allowed to feel things. And in our systems, we will teach you when you're in school that you must avoid transference with those you serve. You must be at an emotional distance and a psychological distance. And you must carry yourself like this. And no more doing this. And no more patting on the back and the shoulder. No more saying, it's going to be all right, baby. It's going to be all right. No more doing that. You got to take a step back and a step in. And you got to step off. And you got to close down and close up, and you need to be intellectual and cognitive and use this part of you and drop the soul of you and the heart of you. You got to do these things. This is the cultural truth of our systems. And now everywhere that you go and I go to spend time in other agencies and programs and figure out how we're going to address these things, we see the professionals are suffering. We see that the leadership in the systems are suffering. The caseworkers are suffering. The managers and the supervisors are suffering. Everybody's suffering. Right? And so my prayer, I sat on a mountaintop yesterday and I was thinking about you and I was praying about you and I was loving you and I was trying to summon the sermon. I was trying to summon the message, the inspiration. What is this day supposed to be about for us? What is this really all about? I'm trying to understand, why are we hurting so badly, right? Why are we, the nation we call ourselves the number one? Why are we so insecure that we have to constantly call ourselves number one? What is that about? Why are we calling ourselves advanced all of the time? What is that about, family? We have to ask these questions lovingly. There's no shame in our game. We have to assess ourselves. We ask the children and teenagers and parents to do that. We ask them to assess themselves, yes. We have to assess ourselves. Too many times we get together like this and we talk only about the children, but we don't talk about the hurt inside of us. We don't talk about the tenderness and our tender breasts. We don't talk about our fear and the way we've regressed in our soul and in our emotions and in our behavior. We don't talk about it. Why is that? I've been sent to love you. I know this because I was born into the system. Homeless, nameless, placeless, faceless, graceless, tasteless, hopeless. That was me. And it was an incredible blessing to be born that way, man, because it forced me to reckon with what it means to be alive and to be well and to heal. My circumstance blessed me, but I had to figure out, first of all, that it was a blessing before I could use the blessing. You following me? Are you with me? It's okay. My daughter is 19 now, and she's going through her growing pains, trying to learn what it means to be a woman. She's growing up in a society of women who themselves are hurting because they've never been allowed to be a woman. They don't know what is sacred womanhood, what is noble womanhood. How do I get that? How do I be that? They're growing up instead, even the mothers of the children, growing up with all these ideas about womanhood that are just fallacies and lies, that are fraudulent, that are distortions. Why? Because in a capitalistic, materialistic system, wealth benefits from children growing up, boys and girls, to become men and women who don't know how to be men and women. Then they are vulnerable. And can be used as commodity, and money can be made. Yes? Money can be made. So my daughter, she's trying to cross over Jordan. She's trying to become a woman. She's looking for examples. How do I treat myself? How do I treat other people? How do I treat my sisters? How do I treat my brothers? How do I treat my sisters and my misters? How do I avoid the deep heart blisters that keep me in pain and suffering at night? Feeling so alone. Lord, how come me here? I wish I never was born. There's a song being sung by our young ones. Are we well enough to even hear it? That's the question. Are we well enough to even hear the song that they're singing? See, when I was growing up and I was in pain, prior to my translation, I was singing a song too, and it was a soulful song, but it was the wrong song. It was not my native song. It was not my Cherokee song. It was not my Blackfoot song. It was not my African song, not my Kru song, not my Mende song, not my Balanta song. It wasn't my West African song. It wasn't my New Mexican song. It wasn't my human song. I got my song wrong. I was singing sorrow song. I was singing, sometimes I feel like a motherless child, long way from home. And if a child is singing a sorrow song, even in the presence of gifts and blessings and goodness and hope and people who care, social workers and clinicians and therapists and teachers, educators, counselors, hallway monitors, playground monitors, bus drivers, people who care, but the child can't receive the love because a child doesn't know how to love herself. Now we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. Sometimes trouble itself is a blessing because it propels us into the light. Right? So I know I was meant to come here and love you this morning because I was born all of that. And I went on a journey, and I had to learn to stop destroying myself. I had to go from being a destroyer to being a creator. In our native culture, we have this legend we teach to our children when we say, inside of every human soul are two wolves. How many of you have heard of this legend? Show of hands. Two wolves inside of every soul. So it doesn't matter what your skin is, doesn't matter what your hair is, or your lack of hair is. Doesn't matter how you dress, doesn't matter how you shaped, doesn't matter what hood you come from, what you roll in, what your rims is, what your Timbs is. None of that matters. Inside of every soul, whether you like it or not, are two wolves. One is the wolf of love, and one is the wolf of hate. And it is the nature of wolves to fight to the death until dominance is established. It is the nature of a wolf. And so in our human lifetime, from the moment we are conceived, as we go through gestation, birthed out into the world, and then go on our journey, being touched by all these other souls who have wolves dancing inside of them, we ourselves have two wolves, love and hate, going at each other. And the question that we ask our children is, the question we ask our sons and our daughters is, which wolf wins inside of you? And the answer is, my brother said, the one that is best fed, the one you feed the most. And when he says best fed, that's actually perfect language. Because you could feed a wolf a bunch of junk food. That doesn't mean you're feeding it well. It's so critical as a life skill to learn to feed ourselves loving messages, loving thoughts, loving responses to hurtful behavior and hurtful treatment. Abuse comes in many flavors, and we're still learning. We have rudimentary ways of identifying an abuser and determining whether a child has been abused or not. But let me say and suggest this. For a child to come up in the world and be of African descent, and have an experience inside of family, community, schools, grocery stores, gas stations, restaurants, hotels, where that Africanness is being despised and resented and dehumanized and hated and rejected. That is a form of abuse. Our system has not yet evolved to recognize and comprehend and speak on and act on, yes? To be a child and be of Latino descent, to be a child and be of Native descent, of Asian descent, to be a child and be a woman. Has our system evolved to the place where it understands the jeopardy that our girls are under and facing? This is something we must ask ourselves. To have a sexual orientation, which is such a clinical language. Let's speak more love language from our original mothers, which would be a language that would say, If a child loves in such a way that is not validated by society, is it possible that that child is at risk for a particular kind of abuse that we must be paying attention to? Is that possible? Can we say that about ourselves? And since you and I are healers, doesn't it mean that we will go to any degree and extent to make sure that we have scoured all possibilities for what our children are experiencing, to make sure that they are okay and safe? Yes, because we are healers, right? What I'm saying is, if we care and love enough our children and ourselves, that we will care enough to sit down and pause and examine our old school ways. Let's examine our definition of child abuse. When was the last time we actually did that? When did we actually assess the language and make sure that it matches the current reality of what's going on with our children and in our homes? What's going on their phones at 2 a.m.? Why are our children not sleeping? Why are our daughters staying awake all through the night because their phone notifications are set to go off every 17 seconds because they're terrified that somebody's posting hurtful information about them or making bullying comments on social media, and they want to make sure to catch that and catch it up front and then respond to it. And so they're checking their phone all through the night. They're nowhere near deep REM sleep. They're nowhere near repairing their brain with that deep, soothing, nurturing massage that we call sleep. They're not doing that. Instead, they're having to monitor social abuse and social harm. So when we talk about child abuse, because our children have phones at 6 and 8 and 10, have we evolved our methods of assessment, our concept clarity and definition enough so that we're capturing the forms of abuse that are really leading to harm? Are we doing that? Do we care deeply enough? You with me? Yeah. We must evolve as life evolves, as culture evolves, as the times evolve. We didn't necessarily mean for all this harm to come to practitioners and professionals who have to work in these systems. But out of a cultural mindset that was male, we come up with this thing where you come and do the work, and it's all about reports and billing and processes and quotas, paperwork, right? How many of you went to school to be a social worker? Show of hands, high. And did any of you, when you were going to school to be a social worker, ever dream that you instead would end up a professional paper worker? That's right. You see what I'm saying? Here's the thing. We can go back to our own childhood and remember who we used to be and what we dreamed of being in the world. And that's how we begin to heal ourselves as professionals, as healers and practitioners. What was my calling when I was a child? What did I really care about, and how did that feel? And is that being manifest and celebrated and encouraged and supported in my workplace, with my colleagues, with my supervisors, with my superiors? Is my giftedness being elevated and honored and used to its full extent? Because when it's not, that's when we begin to suffer. How about the concept of compassion fatigue? How many of you have heard of compassion fatigue? There was a small woman, she was a teenager in Albania back in the day. Okay, I'm putting my hand here, but I don't know. She was small, okay? Forgive me, I can't figure out this altitude down here. She was somewhere in that, okay, maybe she wasn't, but she was in their range. She was small. And I mention this intentionally because what we see in human history is that it is not our body that matters in this servitude. It is our spirit. And she left home. She had such a strong calling to be one of you that she said, I'm going to leave home. I may never see my family again, but people are suffering. Children are hurting. Mothers are hurting. Fathers are hurting, and I need to be there with them. I need to be there with them in love. And she went and she left home from Albania and she traveled to another continent and she ended up in a land called India. We call it India, in a place called Calcutta. And she was burning with that same fire, that passion fire that you have or that you used to have. Maybe you used to have it. And maybe your embers are fading. That's why we're here to love each other. And she fought and she fought and she fought for the opportunity to do the work, but to do it the right way. And she had to fight against the men in her hierarchy, in her bureaucracy, because they were trying their best, but they were doing it from their own cultural perspective. And so she pled with them and pled with them. She said, we can't be so cold and distant and do this work. These people are hurting. They need us intimately with them. They need to be cradled. They need to be sung to and listened to. They need to feel us. We need to have the fragrance of one another, like a field of wildflowers. We need to have that passing through our souls, you see. And the men didn't understand that. They said, well, we've always done this work this way. And you ladies have always been behind the convent walls. And the monks have been behind the monastery walls. And she said, but the walls are the problem, you see. The bureaucracy is the problem, you see. It's not to judge and attack one another, to shame one another, but to say that this is not good enough for the healing work we have to do today. And she persisted and she persisted, and maybe some of you have had to persist as healers to convince your colleague, your tribe, that this is not sufficient, this is not the way, and we have to try new things in order to support our children and family. In the Antelope Valley, you have children growing up with realities that we didn't grow up with. There is stubbornness and ego to say we're not going to change because we have precedents. She became finally freed into her giftedness, and we became familiar with her as Mother Teresa. But we would never have known about Mother Teresa and the Sisters of Charity if she had not been well enough within herself, because of her nurturing work within her soul, her self-care, her self-love, her healing that she had to do, to remain fortified for that cause. Because when we are not well, we are weakened. And when we are weakened, we surrender. And we say, well, I'm just going to give up and let things be the way they've always been. And our children need more from us than that. Our families need more from this. Antelope Valley, this is the warmest embrace I've ever received in countless years of doing this work. All over the country and in other countries. The folks down in New Orleans, in Louisiana, they're mighty warm. Those are some warm people. Some more, come here, baby, let me get you, come here. Feeding you and, putting food in your face constantly, playing trombone shorty in your face. Just, it's always a fiesta in New Orleans. Let me just tell you, if you haven't been, you got to go. Eat the beignet, get ready to dance, get ready to smile, get ready to lose your shackles, man, because you're going to have a party, right? So I always used to go down to New Orleans before a hurricane came. Before Hurricane Katrina, I did a lot of healing work with healers, with social workers and social service professionals, and with parents and families, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It does matter how we greet each other. It does matter. Right here today, we are practicing how we're going to greet the children that we serve and the parents that we serve and this community. We're practicing it. Maybe some of us have grown into a habit of being cold and closed because we've been hurt and harmed. Yeah? I have been hurt and harmed, and I had to wage a mighty war against my own soul. I say, am I going to become that darkness, that wolf of hate? Am I going to become that wolf of love? And I don't know, some people say that I must be strong to have chosen the wolf of love. Sometimes I feel I was just fortunate that the wolf in me was so strong itself. That was my ancestral strength, was so strong. I felt that that was that divine voice in me has always been so overwhelming that I had no choice but to be what I am, which is love. It's not that we are born hate and then choose it. It's that we are born love, and in that turmoil between love and hate, sometimes we stumble in our weakness into hate, right? And if you stumble too far into that tar pit, that quicksand, sometimes you don't know how to get yourself up and out, especially if you're surrounded by a tribe or a community of people who have themselves fallen into the quicksand. Yeah? With me? Yeah. So let me love you this way as a child of the system, born into it. I'm loving you as a parent, if you're here as a worker, as a professional, as a leader, as an educator, as somebody who cares, as a healer. Translate my words and my emotion and my energy into whatever language you use to feel good about yourself. When was the last time you said to yourself, I love me. I love me some me. I just love me some me. How many of you have done that recently? Yeah, I knew you would. I knew you would. Yeah. That was all women who raised their hands, by the way. Brothers, we got work to do. It's no shame to admit it. We got work to do. The future is female. How many of you have heard that or seen that on social media. So she's smiling back there. Yeah, it's me. In so many ways it is, and thank goodness. What that means in some ways is simply that we are returning to a time and being forced to return around the circle to a time when we knew how to nurture ourselves and one another. That's all that means. Where there is a natural balance in the way we go about being human beings in communities. A natural balance. And it's not even a balance of maleness and femaleness, because those are only ideas. They don't exist in any particular person. We're all so divinely unique, right? We carry all these different elements and ways, but we're saying more broadly that a balance must be recovered in the way that we are with ourselves. We can't keep beating ourselves up, being so hard and so harsh. This is a love letter from me to you. This is a love letter from our children to you. How many of you are fathers in the room? Show of hands. Show of hands, fathers. I want to say that I love you as a father. It has nothing to do with your, quote, success as a father or perfection as a father. I love the fact and the truth that you are a father. I honor that. You don't hear that enough. You are devalued in society and ridiculed. And in popular culture and media, everything ridicules you as a dunce, as an imbecile, as an incompetent, as a checkout. Even as you're trying so hard to check in. And so I say, I love you. And I bow down to you. I bow down to you. I bow down to you. Let's give our Father some love. We cannot continue saying that we want wellness in our community, Antelope people, but at the same time turn around and castigate and demonize and kick down and spit on and beat up the elements of our community that lead to that wellness. The roots of a child's wellness are the parents and the family. Yeah? Go ahead. No matter what our personal experience has been, we do not have the right to dishonor elements in our community that are the root and the soil of our children's soul. We don't have that right. How many of you are mothers in the room? Raise your hand. Yes, mothers, I love you as a mother. I do not love your perfection as a mother, because there is no such thing. And in fact, this myth that we've put on you since birth, that you have to be this supernatural goddess as a mother, is one of the things that is actually a determining factor in child abuse, because it exerts a pressure on you and on your entire life that is an unnatural one. How many of you have mothers? Maybe you've gone through the gestation experience as a mother, or the birth experience as a mother, or the early life infancy experience as a mother, or the teen years as a mother. How many of you as mothers have had feelings, honestly, at some points along the way where you just wanted to, your child? Show of hands. Show of hands. Be honest. Just, come on. Not, like, okay, see, you see, ladies, you see, didn't that feel good? Didn't that feel good? Didn't that feel good? We have it within us. We have the intelligence and the creativity and the greatness to both be solemn and sacred about the way we prevent child abuse and address child abuse on the one hand, and on the other hand, be much more realistic, because that's what love is being realistic about what we're putting on our mothers and how girls are socialized from the beginning. This idea that you must say nothing ever that's not absolutely celebratory about your motherhood experience. That is a disservice to you. Because as a human being, you're going through moods and energies. You're going through wellness peaks and valleys. You have challenges. You have things breaking down. You're putting them back together. You're trying to carry water. Sometimes it's not your water. It's other people's water, and they're not carrying it. But you said, if I don't carry the water, then nobody's drinking. So I'm carrying the water. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to let people just die in the desert of the Antelope Valley. And that's how great you are, right? But you need the nurturing and the love from yourself and from the rest of us that has to do with us being honest about your vulnerabilities, yeah? Honesty. So to mothers and fathers, to brothers and sisters, to social service professionals, if that's your language, to healers, to hope dealers, to light weavers. Have you heard of Rumi? Be a lamp, be a lantern, be a lighthouse. Help somebody heal their own soul. This love letter is to you. I call you legendary. For all those who serve children with honor, they call you social workers, but I drink my drinks from legend. So I recall a time when family and community were one and the same, and it was called a compound. And there were those people of great sensitivity, and they were entrusted by the adults, and they were ratified by the elders to place their hands upon the shoulders of children and turn them to face a better wind. There were those people. They call you social workers. I call you those who turn lives around. You see, you seep into cracks like salvation blood, and you fill up the spaces so that the precious little ones won't fall through. That's what you do. They call you social workers. I call you spirit keepers, denizens of the light. I mean to say that you reside in a house called hope, and you keep the light on so that babies and lost folk can find their way home. Are you with me? Light keepers, denizens of the light. This is why it matters that you be well. This is why it matters that you love yourself and mend yourself and pick up that needle and you pick up that yarn. And you, if you don't know how to mend, if you don't know how to do macrame or knitting, if you don't know that, if you don't know how to quilt, if you don't know how to create blankets and tapestries that will keep you warm in the cold night, then you reach to your sister and you reach to your brother who does have that skill, and you learn it for yourself. They call you the people who keep the light on so that babies and lost folk can find their way home. They call you social workers. But the ground that you till is not social, it is spiritual. It is of the human spirit, and it drips with black richness like strong coffee picked from heaven's hills. And the seeds that you protect are not simply children, not simply tomorrow's daylight, but the reason for our past and the purpose for our people to be. That is the question. I am a child of the system and of suffering and of solace and of sorrow and of song and of song. And I drink my drinks from legend, so I recall that mud-caked fishermen work the banks of the Nile River, and they have a faith that creation will grace them with good catch even on stingy days, Antelope people. Stingy days when you don't feel like getting out of bed. Stingy days when your children are acting up. Stingy days when you're not getting the funding you need for your project. Stingy days when you got to go to that darn staff meeting. Stingy days when your coworker is just, you want to pull her hair out. Stingy days when you just are about to lose it. Even on stingy days, these fishermen, fisherwomen still have faith that creation will grace them with good catch so that they can return home to their families and fill bellies, fill substance, feel sustenance, feel need with something beyond yams, plantains, collard greens, cabbage. I'm about to make you hungry. This is your name. Fisherwomen, fishermen, casting your net, bringing it home to the Antelope people who need to graze on that green grass of your grace. Don't you ever underestimate yourself, the sacredness of this work. You are not celebrated by this society because we're still trying to remember what it means to be whole, what it means to be lovers, what it means to be men and women together. We're still trying to get back. We're trying to get back. And so your work is not celebrated, and you have to beg for money to do the work, right? And you don't have enough resources, and you don't have enough time. And the case files, they pile up on your desk, and you get stressed out. And that teenager who became Mother Teresa, she understood you. She understood your plight and your path, your passion and your power. Because people always asked her hour after hour, how do you serve so many suffering souls? And she always said, as long as I am working from the infinite well of my love and compassion, I do not tire. But the very moment I begin to act from and live from and serve from the intellect, the cognitive brain, this male-oriented way of doing this work, she said, the minute I begin to act exclusively from that domain, I become exhausted. You see, family, Antelope family. There is no such thing as compassion fatigue. Compassion does not fatigue. We do when we fail to live from compassion. And then there's the griot, the storyteller, and she's old and over by the stump, and she's still got that reach to go on, and even her joints are stiff, they're stiff. She feels that cold in her bones, but she's still got that reach to go on and pull the ripened fruit of symbolism and legacy. We're talking about hope. We're talking about promise. We're talking about encouragement to children and families. And she's pulling those fat, ripe fruits from the highest tree branches and the most shy and introverted clouds. And she's picking them and putting them in her story basket, so that the young ones can fill their minds with substance beyond what is today, January 24th, extending out to what ought to be and what used to be in family and community. She's just a griot and she's old, but she's young enough to set young ones free. And this is your name. You're a griot. You're a storyteller. You're the keeper of the flame. Make sure that the stories that you pass around in your program, in your project and initiative, in your agency, in your institution, make sure that those are hopeful stories. Those are loving stories, because what happens is trauma visits us in this work. And then as human beings, we have this thing where we tend to become attracted to the trauma drama stories, and it sticks to us like foul pollen, in summer heat, and we bring it home and we're telling those negative stories to our family, to our spouse, to our loved ones, and we're spilling all that out, and we're spilling it out to our coworkers. And you show up every morning and you've been bumping that favorite music in your car, driving to work in the valley, right? And you're feeling good, your limbs are loose, you got serotonin flowing, you got the oxytocin, you're like, girl, I'm feeling good today. Man, I'm feeling good today. Then you arrive at work and you step out of the car and you begin to, all of a sudden you seize up. And now you're not skipping in a lively manner. You're the walking dead. And you're just showing up. Time to be a professional. Time to be a professional. And then the lizard part of your brain wakes up and it says, it's time to tell some negative stories about what happened 2 years ago and what happened 6 months ago. All the negative things that happened in the office and the negative things that happened in the home. And the new workers come like Winnie the Pooh. Y'all remember I talked to you about Winnie the Pooh last time. You new workers showing up like Winnie the Pooh. Like, I'm here to help families and I'm here to help children. I just got my degree. I'm getting to get my education and I'm going to help families. It's like, I got my ice cream. And they're showing up. And then they're greeted by the tribe of the walking dead. And they're drooling. The tribe is just drooling, looking at the Winnie the Pooh, and they're like, what is this voodoo that you do, Pooh? What's with the smiles and the laughter and the joking and the leaping about and the positivity? We don't do that here. How many of you have heard that? Girl, you better tone down your optimism. You better snuff out your light. How many of you have heard that? Don't be the walking dead, family. Don't be the walking dead. Be the Pooh. Have a Pooh preserve. Have a reserve where you treat your Poohs well and make sure they don't go extinct. And if you've got Eeyores in the family, you know my Eeyores, right? We love you, Eeyores. But all that negativity and sorrow is getting us all down. We understand you got a nail in your booty that's holding on the tail. So we understand you're in acute pain and chronic pain, and you're probably addicted to some type of painkiller. We understand. We've got compassion for you, but at the same time, send your Eeyores out to the food truck, not just at lunchtime, but whenever that truck comes back, just send them out there. Sometimes you got to separate Eeyore from Pooh so that Pooh can be Pooh. If you're trying to have just a moment of optimism and positivity at work, on a particular day, in a staff meeting or in a hallway, sometimes you have to be assertive and take initiative and say, listen, this is a no-fly zone for that Eeyore stuff. This is a no-fly zone for negativity, no-fly zone for drama, no-fly zone for saying no to everything when somebody comes up with a good idea. This here is a no-fly zone, So don't bring your stuff. I love you, but I have to leave you at this time because you're determined to be negative, and we're about to light a fire of hopefulness. We're hope weavers, right? We're medicine women and men. That's what we do. Y'all got me all off from my poem. Okay, so They call you social workers and child welfare. I call you medicine, women and men and family welfare. I call you glue in the community when the rain comes to pull things apart. I call you doctors, priests, healers, teachers, palm readers, fortune tellers, prophecies, negotiators, mediators, advocators, instigators, pacifiers, storytellers, truth dwellers, getting downright dirty and shameful sellers, cleaning up mess, setting crooked straight, child soul caressers, man, woman, I call you masseuse. Irrigators, investigators, neglect haters, keeper of the cage that carries the canary deep into the dark of human caves, looking for that first sign of something foul, looking for that abuse, looking for that abuse, looking for that first sign of something foul, but yet well enough to praise that first sign of something beautiful. You feel me? Dutiful. Because you praise the beautiful. Let's praise the fact that we showed up today. Let's praise the fact that we got clean water today. Let's praise the fact that we care about this work and we know each other and we're developing relationships and we got a team that we're growing. Let's praise the beautiful. If you can't praise the beautiful in this work, you quickly become unwell. You become burnt out and bitter and negative and toxic. And now you're not the sunlight in the Antelope Valley. You're the midnight without any starry night. You're the darkness that has no hope of becoming light. See, darkness is a beautiful thing because we know at the end of that period of nightfulness, there will be dayfulness. That's why we rest in night, because we know day is to come. But if there is no day and it's only darkness, then we lose the sound of our own soulful drum. You following me? We fall into despair and hopelessness. And that's a rope that we don't want to grab onto, because hopelessness swings us over the side from hopefulness to this abyss, this precipice where people are ready to jump and it makes no sense. Listen, in a nation that says that this community in the Antelope Valley is less than that one, and this neighborhood is less, and that family is less, and that child is less, and that worker is less, and that leader is less, in a culture that does that prioritizes and creates caste systems and untouchables, people who are glorified undeservedly, in a nation like this, people that ask you, why do you bother with all that pain anyways? Couldn't you get an easier job? Couldn't you go and get that school, that business degree? Girl, you could get. How many people have had family and friends discourage you from this work at some point? Show of hands. And they ask you, why do you bother with all that pain? They call you social workers who go out and keep the faith. And there's only one reason as far as I can see. See, even the blackest, brownest, whitest, brokest, poorest community is made up of, beautiful families and children just trying to get themselves free. Not just free from what's going on today, but free from generational hurtfulness and brokenness and dysfunction and abuse and despair. We cannot afford to demonize those who have harmed others. We must engage in a reclamation project and have faith that there is goodness and beauty in every soul. When we give up as healers, then there is no hope for anybody, because we're the last outpost for love and compassion as healers. Give it to yourself. We're the last outpost. It breaks my heart to sit around with professionals, with healers like this, and hear them say just the most hurtful things about the families and children. Then you know we're really in trouble. We have to stay above that madness. So these families and children, they're just trying to get themselves free, and they're each endowed with the full potential of this universe, unshakable masterpieces of a canvas untouched by a foolish and young nation, this one, still using a wrong paintbrush to color them in, the wrong ideology, the wrong idea about our people. Right, people? And you in the morning when you rise, you peel the frustration from your sleepy face and your weary eyes, and you wash it away down the sink with all that dirt that system puts in your way, and you walk clean out the door because you believe. You believe these children are good enough, and these families are worth enough, and these communities deserve enough, and you absolutely have what it takes enough. You must have faith that you have what it takes enough, because you don't ever make enough. Y'all don't ever make enough money, material status, superficial dough, to ever let it be okay to let some folks slip, not even some folks, for just one day. And I'm the child, and I ask the question. I'm the child of abuse and self-abuse. I'm the child of love and self-love. And I'm asking you the question that I answer. And I say that you have to be warriors because you fought my battle. You have to be magicians because you carried me over the wide water with your barest feet. You have to be the locksmith helping somebody who cared for this little black boy, lost boy, silent boy, helping that somebody in this valley wide to turn the key and let me just be on my way to being what I was put here to be. And check this out, family. Don't you ever think that any one of these children could never grow up to become legendary. We are not the wisdom of creation. We occupy a more humble station. It's called human imperfection. We don't see everything. We don't know everything. Greatness comes with a lateness sometimes. It comes up out of poverty and in the crumpling of dimes. It comes up out of wastefulness and uselessness. Sometimes greatness and beauty arises from the most terrible soil when we are not the ones to pass the final judgment on what a child can be. Don't you be that. Be humble. From this rippled surface, the distortion of the reflection that we are able to catch is the beauty of a day on down the path when that child and family storm calms itself and quits its crying. And that warped reflection in the mirror of child welfare as the child fared well is the day's bounty brought home to feel somebody in the belly with a substance beyond yams. Now, when I began this life, you were there for me. You and your kindred spirit, your kindred kind, and you carried me first to a safe way station and then to my people who would bring me up. So child welfare or child farewell? That is the question. I put my money on the sweet honey of the Antelope Valley. The sweet stuff, the nectar, the organic honey, the stories of success. Because I am one, because you were one for me. Triumphant that is, triumphant you are. I am the reason that you get up and go out to work. Even in those bitter stretches, family. I see you. I feel you. When that fierce wind blows you back and that sharp sand stings your face, coming from the deep, deep desert, you lean not backwards, you're not a disgrace, you lean forward into the human race. And I can't just thank you, that would be an understatement. I have to remind you of your greatness. That's what I'm doing today. How you leave it in your wake so that a child like me can come around behind you and lap it up and taste him some sweetness. It tasted so good to me back then. And you want to know why? Because I just wanted to have the chance to grow up so that I could just possibly not be that stat. Be alive and taste me some sweet potato pie. Let me make it California specific. So I wanted to grow up so I could have the chance to taste me some alfalfa pie, some avocado pies. I'm just messing with you. She said, stay with the sweet potato, sweetie, stay with the sweet potato. No, pumpkin pie. Apple pie, rhubarb pie. We equal opportunity eaters up in here. I just don't get lost in the pie. You're losing my message. You're losing it. I just wanted to have the chance to taste the sweetness. I'm using a metaphor, people. Don't start getting angry about the pie selection. I'm using a metaphor. I didn't want to slip through the cracks, and I didn't want to erode or fade away, and I sure enough didn't want to die. I just wanted to be able to grow up so I could have the chance to taste me some of your favorite pie. Cinnamon in my dreams, fresh from the oven, heavenly steam in my eye. There is something called the system. It is some parts working right, some parts doing wrong. And then there's you, banging the gong, the one who toils for the well-being of the child. That's you. Made up of flesh and of spirit. That's you. Both need tending to. Some parts mad revolutionary, calling for change when everything around seems to want to just sit still, and that's the deal. And you, some parts little child on the street corner selling lemonade. Y'all got out there early and you put up your thing because you're trying to make some coin. You're trying to make some coin so that you can get what you need to make the day feel good in your Antelope hood. You see? You're trying to get those resources. You're trying to get support. You're trying to mobilize. You're just setting up your lemonade stand every single day. You know people are going to drive by and some are going to honk at you and encourage you. Some are going to laugh at you. Some are going to just say, man, why are you setting up a lemonade stand? That's a joke, man. You're trying to get pennies out of a garbage can. But you set up your lemonade stand every day. You go back. You slice up your fruit. You get your water. You get your ice. You hang your sign. You say, listen here, I'm a healer. I'm a dealer. I'm a hope weaver. I ain't leaving. I'm going to stay on this corner, and I'm going to serve, 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 because that's what we're here for. That's you. And they out in the world, because they do not understand, some of them are your own family and friends, they don't get your work, and that's okay. They call you social worker. They don't get the depth of you, the breadth of you, the brilliance of you. I call you legendary. I was one of the children. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.